Hi, my name is Miha Mazzini. I will write you my short story, The Metamorphosis, that was published 2018. She reached for the phone with a move that required no thought, only stopping briefly to decide how to turn her head. Tilting it until her hair brushed against her bare shoulder, she smiled, pouted slightly with her upper lip, and took the snapshot. She zoomed in on it, looked carefully at her face, typed in "bright morning after an exciting night," and posted to the social network. With the mist lingering around the block, indecisive as to whether to disperse or swell into a cloud, she put on her coat and, before locking the front door, glanced toward the bedroom and the messy bed. She considered making it, but just shook her head. Living alone has its advantages. On the train, she first stood next to a bearded young man, but was soon driven away by the stench of rancid tobacco and alcohol that had made its way through his sweat glands. Sense of a night he will probably brag about despite not remembering much of it. Near the passage to the next coach, the smell was subdued enough for her to check her friends' profiles and like their latest posts. The Angelas, who had shared a shot of terribly new hairstyle she had thought up as a way of cheering herself after her boyfriend had left her, she added, "You're wonderful." Just before the train reached her stop, she also checked her own post again and almost fell over the suitcase some bearded man had left in the middle of the aisle. Nobody had liked her yet. Moving aside to allow the queue past, she went through the list of friends and considered their journeys, certain that they too must be on their way to work, phones in their hands. She checked their posts. The increasing number of likes and mounting comments felt like a sting to her heart. Her eyebrows furrowed and refused to relax even after she arrived at the office. She walked past partition walls, greeting absently. The smell of technology and perfume fused into something alien. Perhaps there was something wrong with the app. She checked her computer. Nothing. Her network friends were already posting office shots. Angela had taken one of her new look hair next to a potted plant, and it was hard to determine what was her hair and what plant. Full of energy at the start of the working day. "I can't sense success," Angela had written, and a number of friends approved. She suddenly became aware of the silence. No barrage of new beeping commands immediately after a post, slowly fizzling out into the latecomers. She recalled films taking place in deep space or in the depths of the ocean. That same humming silence of solitude. A prickling sensation ran down her neck. Switching off her phone, she hesitated over the plastic with the tip of her finger before switching it on again. Her post was still unanswered. She logged into her fake profile that she had created for checking out former boyfriends and looked at her post. She liked it and then remembered she had told Valeria about her fake name and immediately unliked it. But clearly the system was working. Why were they all ignoring her? Were they all in on it? On her computer, she opened a complicated table in an attachment to a message with an exclamation mark and the word "urgent" next to it, but she could not concentrate on the numbers. The sixes could not decide whether they wanted to be nice and vice versa. Her phone sweated in her palm. Whenever the display switched itself off, she nervously touched the screen to wake it up. She pressed her face close to the table on her computer screen and took a snapshot. She took more shots until she liked the way she looked, and the rows of numbers were clear enough to show how complicated they were. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going, she added. She could not take her eyes off the screen. Barbara was already letting everybody know she was on her coffee break. Steve was smoking in the disabled area. Her own two posts remained uncommented on. She checked the history. Every morning they all sent selfies to each other, confirming they exist, hinting at excitement, success, and happiness. But today, was everyone in on this? Everyone. Almost 100 people. Would that even be possible? If so, what for? Should she post a third photo? Would that not amount to self-humiliation and pleading? The boss arrived, looked serious, and talked for a long time. Not a word got through to her. He probably wanted her to analyze the figures in the table before the end of the day. He was certainly not being complimentary. He never was to anyone. His continuous mistrust gave him a receding chin that accentuated his stooping nose. What has she done to them? She combed through every conversation, every post and comment, tried to scrutinize and analyze everything, found nothing discriminating. During lunch break, she sat staring at her phone, the mere thought of food causing her knot stomach to churn. Everyone took shots of their food and commented on it. Angela, whose status was only ever one of two, boyfriend or diet, posed with some bean sprouts. Christina was informing everyone she was in Prague and complaining about the service. She moved the keyboard out of the way and took a shot of the emptiness. She added, I want to lose weight. With her skinny figure, which often made people mistake her for a teenager, the post must have had appeared shocking. Clearly not. She wondered whether her hunger had turned to pain or whether it was merely the abandonment, taking its final hold. It was only much later that she realized it was her bladder that needed attention and went to the toilets. On her way back, one of the computer guys bumped into her and merely shuddered without a word of apology. She was about to shout at him, but instead just returned to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror for a long time. When she will return to her workplace, her post will have been seen and acknowledged. No. Logging into her fake profile, she liked all her own posts and even noted under her diet comment, you of all the people really don't need this, adding a smiley. She switched back to her own profile and kept rereading the comment she had posted to herself. She checked all of her hundreds or so friends, reached into the most random corners of the web, clicking likes on everything and adding written comments to all she knew personally. Then she waited. She wanted to cry. Looking out of the window, she realized that outside the sun must be scorching while she was feeling cold inside. The air conditioning sprayed her skin, abandonment overran her body. The laser printer in the corner churned out page after page smelling of chemicals. The boss appeared in the corridor. Cramps in her stomach, she desperately tried to find an excuse. He went past without as much as glancing at her. Her network friends slowly bid farewell to their workplaces. One was already cycling along with a camera on his helmet. A few others were posting shots of themselves drinking beer. She left without watch, switching off the computer. The doorman gazed straight ahead and she paused, reluctant to disrupt his field of view. When she approached him, she realized with relief that his eyelids were closed and his head was leaning forward. When he stirred and checked the time, she had already stepped into the lobby. The drone of the air conditioning became louder. The artificial cool was battling the early heat of late spring. She watched the passers-by through the glass door, the sun casting their long, sharp shadows onto the concrete pavement. She stopped halfway there, and the glistening rays of the sun greeted her as something she had lost a long time ago, and she feared that it might have become so alien in the meantime that it would no longer want to accept her. She looked down and was startled. Why did her foot have no shadow? You fool, she said to herself. You're not even really in the sun yet. This is the lobby. The light here is dispersed through the glass. Is it not? I will just step out, and she stared at the people walking past and the windows they dragged along with them, and the shadows they dragged along with them. Terrified, she gripped her phone. Hot and cold whirled around her, and everything inside her cried out. Get outside as soon as possible. The sensor about the door stared at her with its glass eye. Should the door not have opened by now? She took a hesitant step forward. The sensor still stared at her and wasn't much more than a reddish circle on a dark background, a blemish on the rough plastic. She couldn't take her eyes off it. She shuffled half a foot along and froze in terror. The door remained closed. The sensor glared. The horror began to wring out her inside, and tears escaped into the open. "Please," she said, in a barely audible voice at first, but after a few steps in between long-lasting pauses, she remained in front of the closed door, looking up towards the sensor, the only vestige of the world. "Please, please, look at me, notice me." She stopped and begged the eye above her to grow, devour her and glow away at her until all that's left will be the surface of a mountain lake, and even a single drop which might, if ever, if at all, fall into it, will be a miracle greater than a storm.